Hey, what up, YouTube? Y'all know what it is. Y'all know who it is. Charger Conversations with your mans and them, your uncle. Hostile takeover, man. I wasn't going to make a video for a while, to be honest. Because, well, I already talked about it. So, but something kind of big happened, and I'm gonna put my thoughts on it. Put my thoughts on the subject out, and it is what it is. So what we getting into today? Fed and fraud. Fresh and Fit got demonetized. I'm not happy about it. Although them trying to deplatform people about a year ago, I'm not all that sad about it either. Here's the other thing. They got demonetized, not deplatformed. Big difference. Big difference. But while I don't like Fresh and Fit, I didn't want to see anything bad happen to it. And this is bad. But it's also kind of funny to me that they want to try to literally get other people's YouTube channels canceled, and they're bitching about getting demonetized when they did it to themselves. So, check this out. They had some shit they called an emergency meeting, which was basically him and Walter moaning and bitching about not being able to make money on YouTube. Like I said, I'm not happy about it, but I'm also not sad about it. But this also, if you saw the video, it also goes to prove my point about grifting. They can still have a show. They can still have a podcast, invite bimbos on, get them drunk, and then berate them for 2-3 hours. They can still do that. YouTube just won't pay them. That's what they're complaining about. They can still talk all the shit they want to talk about who the fuck they want to talk shit about. YouTube just isn't going to pay them. Fit, Myron, literally cried because he can't make money on YouTube. Not because they can't put out what they want to put out, because they can't get paid for it. That's the grift. YouTube has not stopped them from doing what they do. They stopped them from getting paid for it because the shit that they were doing isn't good for the brand. YouTube is owned by Google. Google ain't going for no fuck shit that's gonna cost them money. And I don't know how true it is. I really don't. But there are whispers and rumors that Rumble's thinking about canceling them. Well, not even canceling, just because I don't believe in anybody getting canceled, but deplatforming them. There's no such thing as cancel culture. There's right and wrong. And you can be wrong. But what you can't be is wrong on purpose. So, again, back to my point about grifting and all this other shit. They're not sad because they lost their platform. They didn't lose their platform, so they can't be sad about it. They're sad about the money. That's it. They're sad about the fucking money. Crying about free speech. Myron used to be a federal fucking agent. Now, if you know anything about federal jobs, especially most federal jobs, especially all federal law enforcement jobs, you take an oath to defend the Constitution. The Constitution, as far as free speech goes, only protects you from government persecution. Google and YouTube aren't the fucking government. They are... Google is a publicly traded company who happens to own YouTube. But even though it's publicly traded, it's privately owned and privately held. It is and when I mean private, like private sector, away from the government. It's publicly traded, but it's a private sector company. So, freedom of speech has not been violated. The First Amendment says the government can't step in and get in their way. And the government didn't. Google did. The other thing is, I don't know, some people would call it karma. I'm not a big karma person. But you did to yourself what you were trying to do to other people. And I can promise you that YouTube gave them warnings before they got demonetized. Especially considering the amount of views that they get. They are a large YouTube content creator. Hundreds of shows, maybe even maybe over, I don't know how many. They might have a couple of thousand shows because they've been known to do multiple shows a day. Plus the clips that they drop, all that. We're talking about millions of views. Millions of views. So YouTube isn't going to take demonetizing them lightly. But seeing as how they didn't get in immediate trouble for the clan hood thing and calling people monkeys and making ape noises and blah, 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 they probably thought they were in the clear. Turns out they weren't. And see, I don't like it because it's a slippery slope. It's not about Fed and fraud. It's just a slippery slope. Basically, we already knew anyone who creates content is subject to YouTube's whims, what's, considered acceptable, which is always changing. It seems weekly. But if YouTube is willing to do that to them, smaller creators don't stand a chance. The other thing is, aside from the slippery slope shit, I personally don't like when things like this happen, because I like to know who my enemies are. I like to know who doesn't like me. Now, when I say that, it's not personal because I've never met Fed and fraud. But the things they said about foundational Black Americans, male and female, have never sat right with me. The things they say about Black culture, which is all stereotypical and for the large portion not true, are routinely negative. Meanwhile, they try to fit in to the same culture and use that same culture to make money. But at the end of the day, I like to know who doesn't like me off rip. That's a downside to me of this so-called woke culture, cancel culture, whatever you want to call it. It makes people hide their true selves in the name of making a buck. I was never upset that they were making money. I was like, good for them. I don't hate on people for making money. If you go back and watch any of my videos about them, it was never about them making money. It was about the things they did to make money. Because it's all fake. The things they do and say is all fake. And that's one thing you'll never be able to say about me. I will be 100% real 100% of the time. I literally made 2 videos in the last 2 weeks about what the fuck is going on with me. I've been 100% transparent about my past and what I think qualifies me to speak on what I speak on. But you will always get authenticity out of me. That's never going to change. But now that this is happening, a lot of people are going to change the way they conduct themselves. And it's going to make it harder for people to identify who they do and don't want to fuck with. So I'm not gonna celebrate this. I'm not. As big of a problem as I had with their content, I'm not gonna celebrate them getting demonetized. But I am gonna point out the bullshit like I always do. I'm always gonna point out the bullshit. So this whole whining and crying session that they had the other day wasn't about not being able to put out their message. It wasn't about freedom of speech. I just debunked both of those. It's about the money because they're grifters. And I know there's a lot of legit content creators in what they call the manosphere, red pill, men's space, whatever. There are a lot of legit, more legit content creators who mess with Fed and fraud because they're popular. And to that, I say that shit is trash. Like I said in a previous video, it's just those guys are just the people who want to hang out with the cool kids like this is high school. Grow the fuck up. Like, for real, just grow up. It's not that hard. But again, I'm not happy about it. This isn't a celebration. It's just a hard truth. And it's a conversation that needs to be had. Podcast studio's actually finished. We're just trying to get a date that we can actually show up in the studio and do what we do. And then I'll introduce y'all to my podcast co-host, and we'll take it from there. But in the meantime, I'm gonna wait out this Southern California rainstorm that's on its way, and I'll holler at y'all. As always, middle fingers up, be safe, stay dangerous.